Have you ever paused for a moment and thought, when did moving start to feel harder? Not all at once, but little by little, like a quiet shift you barely noticed at first. Maybe it was the day you hesitated before standing up, the moment a short walk left you more tired than expected, or the realization that you've started avoiding stairs, long outings, or activities you once loved. It didn't happen overnight, but now things feel different. And maybe, without even realizing it, your world has started to shrink. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Not just the physical challenge, but the deeper feeling that a part of your independence is slipping away. That quiet fear of what if one day I can't keep up? But here's the truth. Walking less doesn't have to mean living less. Your body still holds strength, still holds potential. You just need the right way to move for where you are today. You don't have to force yourself through workouts that don't feel right. You just need a new way forward, and that's exactly what we'll uncover today. 7 simple, powerful strategies designed to help you feel stronger, steadier, and more in control so you can keep living life on your terms. So stay with me because the next few minutes might just change everything. And if you're ready to reclaim your strength and confidence, hit subscribe and let's take this first step together. Now let's begin. And that first step? It starts with strength. Because when your muscles are strong, everything else, balance, stability, confidence, becomes easier. But strength isn't about lifting heavy weights or pushing yourself past your limits. It's about keeping your body capable, about ensuring that when you stand up, when you take that next step, you feel steady and in control. And the good news is you don't need to be on your feet to rebuild that strength. Tom knows this feeling all too well. At 74, he still thought of himself as strong. After decades of working as a mechanic, his body had been his greatest tool, lifting heavy parts, standing for hours, moving without a second thought. Strength was part of his identity. But time has a way of humbling us. One day, he reached for a bag of flour in his kitchen, something he had done 1,000 times before, and felt something unexpected. A strain, a small tremble in his hands. It wasn't much, but it stayed with him. Over time, he noticed it more. Getting up from a chair took effort, carrying groceries felt heavier, and stairs, he started avoiding them altogether. He hadn't realized how much strength he had lost because it had happened so slowly. When his doctor suggested seated strength exercises, Tom nearly laughed. How could sitting in a chair possibly help him regain what time had taken? But he gave it a try. At first, the movements felt almost too simple. Lifting one knee at a time, curling his arms with small weights, twisting gently to engage his core. But after a week, he noticed something. Standing felt easier. After a month, he wasn't bracing himself before rising from his chair. His steps felt surer, more confident, as if his body was finally remembering the strength it had always known. Strength is more than just muscle, it's the foundation of independence. And the best part? It's never too late to rebuild it. Each small effort today is an investment in tomorrow, a quiet promise to yourself that you will continue moving forward. So why not start now? Take a seat, lift your knee, feel the strength that's still inside you, and know that with each repetition, you're taking back control, one movement at a time. Movement shouldn't feel like a battle, yet for many, it does. The stiffness in your knees, the ache in your hips, the quiet frustration of knowing your body wants to move but pushing through the pain feels impossible. When walking starts to feel more like a chore than a joy, it's easy to believe that slowing down is the only option. But what if the problem isn't that you can't move, only that you haven't found the right place to do it? Margaret had always been an active woman. At 76, she still pictured herself as the person who once strolled through farmers' markets on the weekends, who took long walks just for the pleasure of it, who never had to think about moving, she just did it. But the years crept up quietly, and with them came the pain. At first, it was occasional, a dull ache after a long day. Then it became constant. Her knees protested with every step, and soon she started saying no to the things she once loved. The walks got shorter, the outings less frequent. She convinced herself it was just part of aging. That was until her neighbor extended an invitation she almost refused. An aquatic therapy class. The idea felt ridiculous. How could floating in a pool help her regain what she had lost? But on that first day, as she stepped into the water, something changed. The pressure lifted. The usual heaviness in her joints disappeared, replaced by a sensation she hadn't felt in years: lightness. She started slow, simply walking through the water, feeling it support her, hold her up in a way the ground never could. With each step, her body moved without pain. And for the first time in years, she felt free. Over the next few weeks, she built strength without even realizing it. Gentle resistance exercises engaged her muscles without strain. Floating leg lifts activated her core without discomfort. Day by day, the confidence she had lost began to return. The water wasn't just a place to move, it became a place to heal. Because movement should never be something we fear. And the water doesn't just carry you. It reminds you that your body is still capable, still strong. All it needs is the right environment to thrive. There are some things in life that never truly leave us. A familiar scent, the sound of a loved one's laughter, the way music has the power to transport us back in time. Long before movement felt like effort, before getting up required thought, before stiffness settled into muscles that once moved so freely, there was music. And with music, there was rhythm. A rhythm that once guided steps across a dance floor, tapped out on countertops while cooking, swayed through the living room on a lazy Sunday afternoon. But somewhere along the way, that rhythm faded, lost beneath the weight of time and hesitation. Barbara hadn't danced in years. At 80, she told herself those days were behind her. She used to love it, turning on the radio, letting herself get lost in the melody, feeling the joy of movement without thinking about it. But now her body didn't feel the same. Her legs didn't move as easily, and the idea of dancing felt impossible. That was, until her granddaughter came to visit one afternoon. Without warning, an old Sinatra song began to play through the speakers, and before she even realized what was happening, her fingers were tapping against the arm of her chair. Then her foot moving just slightly, and then, without thinking, she was swaying. It wasn't much, just a small movement, but in that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: lightness. From that day on, she started playing music again. She moved in small ways, swaying her arms, tapping her feet, even marching lightly in place. It didn't feel like exercise, and maybe that's why it worked. The music carried her, made her forget the effort, allowed her to simply be in the moment. And soon, her body followed. Because movement isn't just about muscles and bones. It's about emotion, about memory, about joy. And music has a way of waking up something inside of us, something that was never truly gone, just waiting for the right song to bring it back to life. There's a certain pride that comes with moving freely, with knowing that your body will support you wherever you go. Independence isn't just about the ability to get from one place to another, it's about confidence, about the quiet assurance that you can step outside without hesitation. But when movement starts to feel uncertain, when each step comes with the fear of stumbling, something else settles in: doubt. And doubt has a way of keeping us still. George had always been steady on his feet. At 83, he still carried himself with the same quiet strength he always had, even if his body had changed. But deep down, he knew he wasn't as sure-footed as he used to be. The sidewalks outside his home felt uneven, the stairs to the front door seemed steeper, and that nagging fear, "what if I fall?" was growing harder to ignore. He told himself he could manage, that he didn't need help, that using a walker would mean admitting something he wasn't ready to face. But when his grandson invited him to his soccer game, George hesitated, not because he didn't want to go, but because the thought of navigating the field, the bleachers, the crowds, it all felt overwhelming. And so, for the first time, he considered something different. He tried a rollator, a lightweight one his doctor had recommended. At first, he felt self-conscious, unsure of himself. But as he took those first few steps, something shifted. He wasn't struggling to keep his balance, wasn't constantly scanning the ground for hazards. He could walk without the tight grip of fear holding him back. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't focused on how he was moving, he was focused on where he was going. Because mobility isn't about appearances, it's about freedom. A walking aid doesn't take something away from you, it gives something back. It offers the ability to keep exploring, to stay connected, to walk forward with confidence instead of hesitation. And at the end of the day, moving forward is what truly matters. There's a moment after a fall that stays with you long after the bruises fade. It's not just the pain or the shock, it's the realization that something you once trusted without question, your own body, suddenly feels uncertain. The ground beneath you doesn't seem as steady, the act of moving no longer feels automatic. And then slowly, without meaning to, you start hesitating. Maybe you skip the afternoon walk. Maybe you hold onto furniture as you move around the house. Maybe without even realizing it, you start doing less. Helen never thought much about balance until the day she lost it. At 79, she had always been careful, but careful wasn't enough when she slipped in her own kitchen. It happened so fast. One moment, she was reaching for a glass of water, and the next, she was on the floor, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. She wasn't badly hurt, but something inside her shifted that day. The fear of falling again became louder than the confidence she once had. She started avoiding certain rooms in the house, skipping trips to the store, turning down invitations that meant too much walking. It wasn't just her body that had changed. It was the way she moved through the world. Her daughter noticed the difference and suggested something simple: balance exercises. At first, Helen resisted. She didn't want to think about falling, let alone practice preventing it. But she started small, holding onto a chair while lifting one foot, walking heel to toe across the living room, stepping side to side to strengthen the muscles that kept her steady. And something incredible happened. Within a week, she felt stronger. Within 2, she wasn't reaching for the walls as often. The hesitation that had crept into her movements started to fade. Balance isn't something that disappears with age, it fades when we stop using it. But just like strength, it can be rebuilt. Each small movement, each practice step is a step toward feeling secure again. And when you move with confidence, the world around you feels steady once more. There's something about stepping outside that shifts everything. The way the air feels different, the way the sunlight warms your skin, the way the world seems to breathe around you. It's easy to forget the power of nature when life becomes smaller, when routines keep us inside, when movement feels like effort. But the truth is, sometimes healing doesn't come from a prescription, it comes from something as simple as fresh air. Jim never thought much about it. At 72, his days had grown predictable. Mornings spent in his chair, afternoons watching television, evenings feeling restless but not knowing why. He had always been an active man, someone who enjoyed the outdoors, but over time he found himself going outside less and less. The more he stayed in, the more he felt stuck, not just physically but emotionally. His doctor noticed the shift and gave him an unexpected prescription: 15 minutes outside every day. No rules, no pressure. Just time to sit, breathe, and exist in the open air. At first, it felt almost silly. But on that first morning, as he settled onto his porch and took a slow, deep breath, something inside him relaxed. The sounds of the birds, the rustling of the trees, the crispness of the morning air. It was as if the world had been waiting for him to return. And slowly he did. The next day he stayed out a little longer. By the end of the first week, he found himself stretching his legs, walking to the end of the driveway just to take in the view. 2 weeks later, he noticed something he hadn't felt in a long time: lightness. Nature has a way of grounding us, reminding us that movement doesn't have to be strenuous to be healing. A deep breath, a short walk, a moment spent tending to a plant, each small act is a quiet step toward feeling whole again. Because sometimes the best medicine isn't found inside a pill bottle, it's found just beyond your front door. Aging isn't about stopping, it's about adapting. It's about finding new ways to move, to stay strong, to keep showing up for yourself no matter what. It's easy to think that slowing down means losing independence, but that's simply not true. Strength isn't just in muscles, it's in resilience, in the quiet determination to keep going, to keep saying yes to life. Every small effort adds up. Whether it's seated strength training, moving freely in water, letting music bring back your rhythm, or stepping outside to breathe in fresh air, every movement is a step towards staying engaged with the world around you. A walking aid doesn't limit you, it gives you the confidence to keep exploring. Balance training isn't just about preventing falls, it's about walking through life without hesitation. And nature? It reminds you to slow down, to feel the sun on your skin, to know that movement doesn't always have to be hard to be healing. But beyond movement, this is about something bigger. It's about choosing to participate in life rather than watching it pass by. No matter your age, no matter your limitations, there is still more life to live. There are still stories to share, laughter to have, and memories to create. So start small. Pick just one thing, one movement, one step. Because with each effort, confidence grows, strength returns, and suddenly the world feels open again. Which one will you try first? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your journey. And if this inspired you, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another way to stay strong, independent, and thriving at any age.